First, tens of thousands of working people on low incomes who rely on the new benefit called Universal Credit face a bleak Christmas. Their December payment will be either stopped or reduced severely. The problem will affect only people who are paid weekly. They rely on Universal Credit to top up their income and pay their rent. And although their pay comes each week, the new benefit is calculated and paid monthly. In most months, people paid weekly get 4 pay packets. But in December, there are 5 Fridays, so most will get 5 payments. That extra income means their Universal Credit will be stopped or severely reduced. The Department for Work and Pensions confirmed this could happen, but it disputes the numbers, though it could not give any accurate number to us itself in the last half hour. And with me is Kaylee Hignell. She's Head of Policy, Families, Welfare and Work at Citizens Advice. Kaylee Hignell, this problem is sort of built into Universal Credit. Why is it like that?
So tax credits, the previous version of benefits that people would get in work, was based on an annual income cycle, and that kind of smoothed out changes in people's income throughout the year. Universal credit is based on a monthly payment cycle, and your payments of wages are looked at each month, meaning your universal credit can change. That brings some benefits. It means that overpayments are less likely, but it does mean that there will be significant budget challenges for people as those payments do change.
Now, initial calculations yesterday by us indicated there were about 100,000 people who were paid weekly on Universal Credit. The Department for Work and Pensions this morning has told us it's actually 67,000. That's about 28%. Does that sound about right to you?
So when we talk to people who come to us for help at Citizens Advice and ask them about their payment cycles, those on Universal Credit, 37% of them tell us that they are paid weekly, 10% are fortnightly, 8% for weekly. The big thing here is if you're paid monthly and your payment is the same each month on the same date, then Universal Credit will be fairly straightforward for you. If you're paid weekly or any of those other payment cycles, then you're going to potentially see differences in the payment and differences in your budgeting.
Yes, and what the DWP, though, says that it was designed this way. They've just sent us a new statement. It says Universal Credit adjusts automatically to people's wages. When someone's wages take them over the Universal Credit threshold, they get Universal Credit the next month, and the process is working.
So the key thing here is about communication. People need to know that if they're getting extra income in one month in one of their assessment periods for Universal Credit, that it may stop their Universal Credit payment and that they then subsequently need to put in a new claim to make sure that they continue to get those payments. The key thing as well is if you've got extra money in the month, don't necessarily bank on the fact that your Universal Credit was going to stay the same, because that could change it either in this month or the next.
And that's particularly difficult for people on low incomes when they're literally living hand to mouth, paying the rent, paying the fuel bills. All that has to be accounted for, and yet their benefit varies.
Yes, I mean, budgeting challenges come from a few things. One is kind of the amount of money you have. The other is cash flow when that's coming in, but predictability is the other factor. And this does create an extra challenge for people.
Yes. And coming back to the figures, 67,000 people paid weekly, the DWP tells us, who are in work. All of them will face this problem at some point. Is that correct?
That's right. So as we have calendar months, we know they move from 5 weeks to 4 weeks. So at different points in the year, people will face this challenge. It won't be the same for everyone because their payments are tied to when they made a claim, but they will be affected throughout the year.
And briefly, we've been hearing that Philip Hammond, the Chancellor, might make some changes to Universal Credit in his budget on Wednesday. Say, what would you like to see? It'll be a long list, I suspect. What do you think you might see?
We do hope there are changes, and there has also been an awful lot of pressure on the government on this. We want them to reduce that first wait for payment that people are facing. That's causing real challenges for people. Make sure they have the support available for budgeting and for adjusting to this new benefit, and make sure it's a flexible benefit that works with the way people work.
Kaylee Hignell, thanks.